Well, good morning. Welcome to Friday morning art talks. Today's topic is kind of a combination of things, but I want to focus on Taoism to a point in how that philosophy, religion correlated into the Asian arts exploration of emptiness and how nature and spirituality are so intertwined together. So, I want to begin with reading a little bit of a description of what Taoism stands for. And it's often spelled Taoism, but it's pronounced with the D. So the Tao means road and is often translated as the way. It can be described as the basic, unfathomable structure of being which underlines the universe. So to me, that means, God in my interpretation. It's a vision of universal order, a primal cosmic energy composed of complementary forces known as yin yang. The constantly shifting patterns of these energies explain all natural phenomena. Taoism taught that to be content as a human being, one must accept the natural forces of the universe, the inevitable of change, and live harmoniously with it. So, for me, because I love to incorporate spirituality and nature, and I'm very influenced by the Asian cultural and art aspects of the East. I do a lot of reading on all of those components. And so if we relate, I'll come back to the emptiness of the paintings in Asian work, but if we go back to the yin and yang, and we think about how it relates to art, I'm going to share some terms. And in basic art classes, we always hear about the elements of art and the principles of art. And if we just break them down real quickly and we think about those opposing forces, and as artists or creative people, we need to balance those in our artwork. And sometimes we also have to contrast them to make an impact. So I often hear from students that, should I continue learning techniques or should I be free and just process my art? And in the Taoism philosophy is that you learn, you study, and then it goes through you and you process uh, the nature of the object through yourself. And I often share that in class. So, some of the elements of art, for instance, are line, texture, color, shape, and form, value, and space. So let's talk about those briefly. So when we think of line, we think of straight lines versus curved lines. We think of a very controlled line with maybe a ruler or a steady hand, or very free flowing, like a calligraphy type line. When we think of composition, we have to think of, is our paper horizontal or vertical? Are our strokes thick or thin? And then, of course, when we start painting, we think of texture and paper. Is our paper smooth? Is it rough with some coarseness? Is it going to be a soft pastel painting, or is it going to be hard with harsh colors? Are we applying the paint wet and loose, or dry and controlled? The artist has to make decisions about colors. Are we going to have a bright painting, or are we going to dull it with complementary colors? Are we using a cooler palette, a warm palette? Are we going to create harmony by joining those colors together? Do I want to have a neutral, or am I wanting to have the viewer look at something very garish, which can be very emotional? What about the shape and the form that I'm creating in my piece? Do I want it flowing and natural and organic? Or is it very staged and very geometric? Are the shapes large? Do I have some small components to contrast those large? And of course, then we start thinking of focus, don't we? I must have light, medium, and dark values, so that light versus dark or no tan. What does the eye see? How do I create form? And then, of course, space. We create the positive image, but around it, we create negative space, which can also contrast that positive space. We often talk about how important that negative space is that we create. Is it open so the mind can go in and wander, or is it very closed? Is it very cluttered or open? Is it shallow, or is the painting very deep? Do we look beyond the horizon? Do we look up into the heavens or the sky? Are we grounded? Are our mountains grounded? Are trees grounded? Are our people standing and we know that they're on something sturdy? So I want you to play with those things and think about how you apply those elements of art in your painting. And do you have to, compose them with some balance, or are you trying to create tension in your artwork by showing contrast of those elements? And then let's just briefly talk about the principles of art. There's balance, contrast, emphasis, harmony, pattern, repetition, rhythm, unity, and variety. So once we learn techniques with our instructor, we often want to go on and start creating our own works with those techniques and pick which techniques we want to use. But we also must think of, how do I balance my artwork? How do I contrast subjects in my artwork? What is the emphasis? What am I trying to say? What do I want the viewer to see? What is my focus? Have I created harmony, or is there a lot of tension in my piece? Have I used pattern or repetition with lines, with colors, so that there is harmony? Is there unity? Are there groups of things? And is there variation in my artwork? So I wouldn't say we always use all of those things, but we pick and choose. And the beauty of learning about art is how we compose all of these things and integrate them into our pieces so that they stand out, which is lovely because it's a choice. So, going back to the Tao, which talks a lot about um, emptiness, that there's emptiness, but yet there's fullness. So we always talk and joke about, are we seeing things, half full or half empty? And that's the way we process. And even that, there's tension between how we view it. So I want you to go on a journey, or some people find a destination. So a destination is we're trying to get to that spot. And often we use a map, which can be our techniques that we decide to pick and choose and stop along the way to get to that final destination. But when we're on a journey, we stop and smell the roses a little bit. We orientate ourselves, but we're okay if we stop and wonder and explore. So at the beginning of classes, I generally ask students to create color wheels and color grids and chart, and we compare colors. We do a lot of color mixing. That is the journey of exploration. We touch on a couple techniques, but then the artist explores those on their own. They apply them to the subject matter that they want to transform or explore. So think of your techniques as your fixed points on your map, but don't forget that you can stop along and explore different things. So to be an inspired artist, I often talk about what does it take to be inspired. Look at a lot of artwork. Right now, we're more limited. Some of the museums are just starting to open, but all of them have been offering wonderful different tours of their museum, or different curators are talking about specific pieces of art. And you have a great opportunity to explore and watch plenty of movies and videos available. I often read a lot. I love to research about something. And obviously, my journey just isn't on technique, it is on, a spiritual journey as well, or being in nature. So try and draw things and explore them and dabble with some techniques, and then push it a little bit. Start a technique, but then go within and see where your journey will take you. I hope you've enjoyed today's art talk, and I hope to see you next Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You can find more information on Instagram or on my YouTube channel that is new. Please join me. Please follow me. And of course, please share any of this information to your friends and family. They may be wondering a little bit about exploring art for themselves. Thank you.